Now, before I talk about Tatloch, there are some people that say they do want to pull for her because they want to pull for Mafa. And I would say that Mafa, I do not think is strong enough to the point where you would pull Tatloch so that you would get Mafa. Like, Mafa is nice, but not that good. When the pet system arrives later on to EN in about 2 weeks, I will explain about it. But for now, please do not worry about the pet Mafa yet. Tatloch is actually a good unit compared to the other 3 villain characters, and she is a fan DPS and she can also support your team. Mafa is for shield breaking, and Mafa is also really good at doing it because it hit 3 weaknesses in 1, which is sword, dagger, and axe. Mafa is when you want to bring Tatloch to multiple fight with multiple enemy, but the enemy is not weak to fan or wind, so you would use Mafa as helping a bit of shield breaking instead. The potency for Mafa is not high, but at least it's a 2-hit AoE, so it's still good. The 3-hit AoE that also inflict charm has a very high potency, but also has a very high SP consumption cost. And charm is just another form of paralyzing. It's just they are having a chance of unable to act. She also has a 5-hit random fan, so for fan DPS she is really good at it. And also a 4-hit wind AoE. The potency of this one isn't high though, so it's mostly used for shield breaking. But since Tatloch has a high base magic stat, you can use it for damage if you do give her enough buff. And last is an all-ally attack and speed buff. All-ally buff is always nice because you don't have to worry about switching out who get the buff, who not get the buff. And attack buff is always nice to have out your other buffer, which the full cap. The passive is what makes Tatloch stand out compared to just being a normal fan DPS attacker. So here's how Tatloch works. Whenever Tatloch uses an attack skill, she'll gain 1 life point, which is kind of sound like a Yu-Gi-Oh thing, I guess. And she also recovers some HP for herself. The more life points she has on herself, the more powerful she is. At 3 points, it's a passive 15% defense up and magic defense up to everyone. At 6 points, it's attack up and magic attack up. And at 9 points is HP and SP regen. Passive buff is really strong, and passive defense up is extremely rare. Passive attack up is also rare, but there are also some other units that have it, like Richard. But Tatloch give both to attack and magic. And last, a passive HP and SP regen, it just feels like another tiny Rinyuu. So, if Tatloch do ever get to 9 points, she will become a tiny mini Rinyuu. And she can also switch out in the back row and also do damage and support some other stuff. And last is her ultimate. The 8-hit is nice, but you use this to get to 9 points faster because getting to 9 points means that you have to spend 9 action focusing on attacking the enemy with Tatloch. So having ultimate does help make that easier. And having O10 will make that super easier, but isn't really mandatory though. Although Tatloch do have one weakness though, is that it would take a while for her to reach her full potential. The defense buff part is only at 3 points, so it's very fast to get that. But the HP and SP regen, which is also important to help sustain your team, would take 9 points, which is like around 7 to 9 turns in battle. And the other is that if Tatloch do die, then all the light point on her, she will lose them all. So she will have to build them up again, so hopefully don't let Tatloch die when you're fighting the enemy. Currently EN, Tatloch is the best AoE fan DPS in the game. Fan team isn't really a thing, but at least she's good at doing fan damage, I guess. Later in EN, when we will get EX3 fight, Tatloch will be more useful there because it's harder to survive against the enemy there, so her passive defense up and her HP regen will be useful. In JP, there are better units to help sustain your team than Tatloch. Sustainers is not just healing and defense up, as in doing other stuff too. We have Adani EX for BP regen, we have Gloria for just like survivability, Terminus also. But this one thing though is that passive defense up is still very rare. So even though her utility is kinda power creep compared to other units, she still has a niche in passive AoE defense and magic defense up though, so when the fight truly gets super duper high, you can always bring out Tatloch again. I want to compare Tatloch and Rinyuu in the team sustain part. On one side we got the ultimate healer that also has defense buff on top of infinite regen, and also just a 10% cost SP reduction. With Rinyuu, you can just use one action, and the effect of the healing will be permanent for the rest of battle. The only downside is that Rinyuu is also permanently stuck in the backline. With Tatloch, however, took a long time to get to work, around 7 to 9 action, but do get a passive 15% attack, magic, defense and magic defense up through the entire team, and also HP and SP regen, so it's like everything that Rinyuu have. To show how powerful Tatloch with all these effects is, if Tatloch just have all these effects, let's just say activate by just reaching 3 points only, okay? Tatloch would be extremely overpowered. She would be compared to as the Rinyuu who can actually deal damage. But I also don't think the 9 point thing is really much of a downside, because the strongest effect on this passive would be the AoE defense buff on everyone, but this passive is available at 3 points, so you will get this effect really quick. And of course, since Rinyuu buff is an active buff, she can also work very well with Tatloch on the same team, so 50% active defense up and passive 15% defense up on everyone on your team. These two will work very well together, both in the story and both in game. So in conclusion, Tatloch is very good. There's a problem though that there's a very high chance that the anniversary unit will probably be Barcelona and Sonya. Barcelona is the first character that can raise the damage cap of everyone on your team, and its A4 is very good. I would say it's the best A4 for both EN and JP, and it's the only A4 I would recommend a free-to-play player to actually go get it. And Sonya is just a great dagger support, and also 6-hit AoE shield shave. So I would say that if your team do not have problem with surviving, then you probably do not need Tatloch.